The movie kicks off beneath the surface, with former college star QB Shane Falco scraping gunk off the undersides of fancy yachts instead of basking in glory. While gliding through the murky water, he notices something wedged in the silt, a metal football trophy stamped with his own name. The sight hits him hard, dragging up the career he lost. Overcome, he clutches it and lets out a muted scream of joy into his mask, a tiny underwater outburst from a man living on memories rather than medals. We jump to Washington, where the Sentinels grind through a high-pressure game while John Madden and Pat Summerall commentate both the action and a raging players strike about money. One receiver moans that $5 million a year shrinks fast once the agent and lawyer take their slice, perfectly capturing the ego of pro athletes. With the score on a knife's edge, quarterback Eddie Martell reaches the end zone with a chance to win, but chooses to slide instead of taking the hit and scoring. He protects his body and throws away the game. The crowd and his teammates explode in fury, hammering home why the strike exists. They're counting cash instead of chasing victory. That afternoon, the Sentinels owner decides if his pampered stars want to act like kings, he'll build a new court. He tracks down Jimmy McGinty, the veteran coach he previously fired after clashing with his franchise quarterback. McGinty is stubborn, unconventional, and allergic to corporate obedience. The owner explains they only need 3 wins out of the last 4 games to clinch a playoff spot. McGinty demands real credit if he pulls it off, and the owner grudgingly agrees. With the strike locked in and the roster emptied, regulars retreating to mansions and private jets, McGinty starts assembling a lineup that feels more like a heist team than a traditional football squad. His first oddball signing is Daniel Bateman, a SWAT officer who once walked on at Michigan State. Bateman is intense, disciplined, and exactly who you'd want in a breach. But he has one ridiculous flaw. The color red sends him into tackle mode. If someone's wearing red, he hits them, which is a nightmare in practice jerseys. Next comes Clifford Franklin, blazing fast but cursed with unreliable hands. He's speed incarnate with catchability like a drop signal. McGinty then adds brothers Andre and Jamal Jackson, huge bodyguards who usually protect celebrities. They bring brute power and synchronized aggression, promising chaos for any defense that lines up in front of them. He also signs Nigel the Leg Gruff, a Welsh kicker from Cardiff now lurking around Hell's Kitchen. Nigel's left foot is a rocket, but he's a chain-smoking gambler buried in debt to local pimps and bookies, about as far from ideal teammate as it gets. Finally, McGinty tracks down Shane Falco, once a rising Ohio State quarterback whose career drowned after an infamous bowl game choke. Falco now lives on a boat, scraping barnacles off other people's hulls. He wants no part of football anymore, but McGinty insists he still has the arm, instincts, and a rare shot at redemption. Falco reluctantly agrees to think it over and, for the first time in a long while, wonders if his story might not be finished. When this patched-together crew walks into the Sentinel Stadium, the reaction is brutal. Fans boo them like they've personally insulted the sport. To the crowd, they're scabs, not saviors. McGinty ignores the hostility and throws them straight into drills. A massive sumo wrestler joins the offensive line, immediately raising the intimidation level and giving them a human wall up front. McGinty watches the mixture of raw talent and wild flaws with guarded optimism, while his assistant looks like he'd rather assemble furniture in the dark than coach this group. Falco eventually arrives ready to commit, but his confidence gets crushed when he runs into the regular players in the parking lot, including Martell. Angry about being replaced, Martell orders his buddies to flip Shane's truck onto its side just to show dominance. Falco stands there watching his ride roll over like a toy, reminded exactly why he walked away from professional football. Even so, he joins practice. On the field, his leadership hops immediately. Sharp throws, steady presence. While the rest of the team struggles to reach his level, making the difference between a fallen pro and lifelong amateurs painfully clear. In scrimmages, Bateman keeps blindsiding Falco because he simply cannot stop himself from smashing anything in a red jersey. This is both comedic and brutal. At the same time, Falco catches the eye of Annabelle Farrell, the head cheerleader, who greets him with a warm smile and small wave that rattles him more. Annabelle has her own staffing nightmare. Rebuilding a cheer squad leads her to hire strippers and sex workers who inject a raw, unfiltered energy into the sidelines. Their routines distract opponents and, surprisingly, come off as oddly charming instead of purely cheap gags. Over lunch, the replacement players eat together, trade jokes, argue about stereotypes, Japanese, not Chinese, and slowly start to bond. They're outsiders, but now they're outsiders on the same bench. Later, Falco stares at his overturned truck, wondering how to get his life, literal and figurative, back on its wheels. Annabelle pulls up, offers him a lift, and drives like a maniac, even rattling a pro QB. On the ride, she casually drops insider info about their next opponent's linebacker, intel she picked up from a fellow cheerleader. It's the first clue she's more than just a love interest. She's quietly useful to the game plan too. Shane awkwardly asks her about dating, and she explains she doesn't go out with football players, least of all quarterbacks, because they're the most spoiled of the bunch. Nothing personal. She just doesn't trust the ego that comes with the position. Later, in the empty stadium, Falcon in the stands, doubting whether he belongs. McGinty joins him and offers a calm pep talk. Falco doesn't need to be Martell. He just has to lead his guys and earn their respect. That simple confidence starts to rebuild Shane's self-belief piece by piece. Their first game with the replacement squad is ugly. The Sentinels fall behind early, and Falco gets pounded. Down by 4 with seconds left, McGinty calls a passing play to go for the win. Falco, haunted by his past collapse under pressure, audibles at the line to a run. Running back Cochran is tackled inches short of the goal line. They lose. The stadium deflates, and McGinty tears into Falco afterward, accusing him. Falco denies it, but both men know he folded to his demons. That night, the original Sentinels players, including Martel, swagger into a bar and start tormenting the replacements. Martel, in a red shirt, unknowingly triggers Bateman's obsession. Bateman snaps and launches into him, igniting a wild brawl. The entire substitute squad jumps in, turning the bar into a chaos zone. They all end up in jail, but instead of sulking, they sing and joke in the cell, officially crossing the line from random hires to real teammates. McGinty arrives to bail them out, rips them for the stupidity, then admits he would have enjoyed watching Martel get smashed. The next day, Falco is back at his boat, tending to it and his bruised ego under the warm sun when Annabelle appears again. She checks in, worried about how he's handling the fight. While they talk, she spots an ugly bruise on his arm. Without a second thought, she pulls a small tube of cream from her bag and gently rubs it over the injury, turning the moment unexpectedly intimate. The air between them practically crackles before she steps back, late for her shift, and invites him to swing by the bar sometime. Later, Falco returns to the stadium and once again crosses paths with Martel and his crew in the parking lot. They replay their favorite intimidation move and flip his truck again, laughing at him. This time, Andre and Jamal step up behind Shane. Andre pulls a gun and unloads a few shots into Martel's flashy car, instantly killing the mood. The rest of the replacement players flip Falco's truck back upright. The message is loud and clear. He's not a lone punching bag anymore. Inside, McGinty gathers everyone for a team talk about fear. He asks each player what scares them most. First, the responses are jokes. Spiders, bees, creepy things in bed. But Falco eventually cuts through the clowning and admits he fears quicksand. When one thing goes wrong, then another, until the harder you fight, the deeper you sink. The comparison lands. McGinty uses it to explain that fear can drown them or drive them. If they channel it properly, they can dump that fear on their upcoming opponent, San Diego, instead of carrying it themselves. The pep talk lands. In the next game, the Sentinels manage a wild, last-second win with a clutch field goal from Nigel. Franklin contributes, the line holds, and the club source cheerleaders whip the crowd into a frenzy. The victory is sloppy and chaotic, but it feels earned. In their following game, Franklin's stone hands still cause issues, so the team resorts to a ridiculous fix. They smear his palms with glue. Suddenly, the guy who couldn't hang on to anything is snagging passes, and they rack up another win. 2 straight victories put them 1 game away from the playoffs. That's when management interference hits. McGinty finds out Martel has crossed the picket line and will take back the starting QB spot for the finale. McGinty argues that the squad works with Falco running the offense, but the owner insists Martel's experience gives them a better chance against Dallas. The strike's nearly done, contracts matter again, and McGinty has to swallow it. Falco is benched. The following day, McGinty breaks it to Falco. Shane accepts the decision quietly, acknowledging Martel's resume. McGinty counters that Martel lacks heart, and heart is what wins tight games when everything falls apart. In the locker room, while Falco packs up, Martel strolls in to rub salt in the wound. He mocks Shane's ability and takes a cheap shot at Annabelle, saying she deserves someone stable, not a sinking ship. It's a personal attack designed to shove Falco back into old insecurity. That evening, Falco shows up at a team party where everyone is celebrating their unlikely success. Nigel senses something's off and presses him until Shane reveals he's out and Martel is back in. The players respond by toasting Falco, honoring him for dragging them this far. Meanwhile at home, Annabelle has set up a special dinner for him, excited for a quiet evening together. Lost in his head, he never arrives. She sits there with untouched food, getting a harsh reminder that even decent athletes can still be emotionally unreliable. On the final game day, Martel's return goes exactly as McGinty feared. He's cocky, ignores the coach's calls, and plays for himself. By halftime, the Sentinels are down 17-0, and the offense looks broken. During a halftime interview, McGinty bluntly states that what this team really needs is miles and miles of heart, not just a big arm. That message reaches Falco, who's watching, and something in him reignites. He heads back to the stadium. In the locker room, Martel tries to intimidate Shane one more time, but the team has flipped sides. They stand with Falco, making it clear they'd rather fight and lose with him than win on Martel's terms. McGinty instantly tells Shane to suit up. The owner threatens to fire him. McGinty shrugs, saying it wouldn't be the first time. That moment cements his integrity as a coach who chooses players over politics. Falco runs onto the field to start the second half, and the crowd roars back to life. He finds Annabelle on the sideline, apologizes for missing dinner, and kisses her in front of everyone. It's corny, but it seals their slow burn romance and shows he's done hiding from big moments. Fired up, the Sentinels storm back, scoring twice and cutting the deficit to 17-14. With the final seconds ticking away, McGinty calls for a field goal to tie the game. Nigel, shaking, confesses he can't take the kick. He's gambled on the game again and fears his creditors will literally take his leg if he misses. Falco stays on the field, tells McGinty he wants the ball, and calls a play for himself. He scrambles into the end zone, but a holding flag wipes out the touchdown. The old Shane would have mentally collapsed right there. Instead, he demands one more shot. On the last play, Falco drops back, trusts his blockers, and fires a perfect pass to tight end Brian Murphy, who secures it for the winning score. The Sentinels take it 20-17 and lock in their playoff berth. The Misfits, cast-offs, and suppose nobodies just knocked off the favorites.